Hey everyone, so I'm Jamie, and what I'm going to take you through today is like a workout that you can do at home. Now, I've got minimal kit, so I'm just going to use a kettlebell, a mat, and a few resistance bands. And obviously, you could do this at the gym as well, where you'll have a few more options. But what's really important, and this is an important thing for me to get across to you, is that when you're trying to change and improve your physique and your body and your performance, what matters is that we kind of continually add some resistance, or what we call kind of progressive overload. So what I'm going to take you through today is the beginnings of that, but if you want to constantly improve and build some muscle and lose some fat, then there's different ways that you can progressively overload. The first is to add repetitions, and the second is to add weight. And over time, hopefully we'll do both. And what that will mean is that your body's continually being stimulated, and as such will adapt, grow some more muscle, lose some fat. Okay, so that's a really important point to get across. So what we're going to do today, when you've got minimal kit, the easiest way is to kind of add reps, and eventually it may well be that you need to buy some more kit so you can add more weight. Okay, so before we do any of this, it's important that you do some sort of warm-up. Now there's a couple of options for me. If I'm training at home, I like to do a little bit of skipping to kind of get the ball rolling, or if you haven't got a skipping rope, you haven't got the space, an even better way is to just go for a jog. 5-minute jog, literally look at your watch, run for 2.5 minutes, run for 2.5 minutes back, 5 minutes and we're done. So that's the beginnings of the warm-up, and that's just kind of to get blood flowing and to raise the body temperature basically. But after that, what's really important is to kind of mobilise the joints. And the purpose of this obviously is to kind of reduce the risk of injury. Okay, so what we're going to do to begin with, so we're going to assume that we've done our run or our skipping or whatever it may well be, and now we're going on to the mobility side of things. Okay, so for the mobility side of things, what we're going to do is we're going to start off by doing what we call a third world squat, and this is to kind of loosen up through your hips and your glutes, and it's an area which most of us are pretty tight. So you'll be able to see there that I'm standing with my feet roughly shoulder width apart. And then literally from there, all I'm going to do is squat down and hold this position. Okay, now this might be a challenge, and if it is, you can raise your heels up by kind of standing on a couple of books or a piece of wood or anything that raises your heels. You can also take your feet wider, which will make it a little bit easier. But the first thing we're going to do is get down there, and we're going to hold it for about 30 seconds. Once we've done that, we're going to start to rotate out to the side. Just taking our arm and letting our head follow our arm, and this is just kind of loosening up and getting a little bit through the hips, but it's also kind of bringing in obviously an upper body element. So do 10, 12 of those or so, then we'll hold it again for about another 20 or 30 seconds. Then if you get your hands and you just place them under your toes, from there we're going to stand up, feel a pull in the hamstrings, sit back down, stand up, back down, and you go as high as you can. 10 of those, and then we sit again. Think about our shoulders being back and retracted, and the weight evenly on both feet. Okay, from there we can stand up. Let's take a step back so you can see the next phase. And what we're going to do is take a big step forward, place the hands down. So this is my left arm, I'm pushing into my knee, and I'm going to rotate out that way. Then I'm going to put the other hand down and rotate out that way. Walk the foot out, walk the other one in, rotate, rotate. And this is stretching through your hips. So we'll swap again. But also again, bringing in an upper body element. And simply doing these exercises as well will kind of just raise the heart rate and the body temperature a little bit more. Okay, what have I got next? Let me check. Yeah, so then we're going to do a little bit of upper body. So we're just going to swing the arms back in two, just changing the arm which goes onto the top. Do 20 or so of those, and the hands come together. We're going to push, but then pull hard. Push, pull hard. As we do that, think about pulling the shoulder blades together. Okay, so as you'll have read in the ebook, basically the way we're going to set this up is we're going to do pairs of exercises or supersets, meaning that you're going to alternate between one exercise and another. So for the first two, we're going to start with our legs. Okay, so we're going to start, I'm using a kettlebell. I think a lot of people have got kettlebells now. You can use a dumbbell for this. You could even just use body weight. But as I said at the beginning, what's important is that you progress over time. So it all depends on where you're starting as to how heavy the weight, or whether you just use body weight, etc, etc. So the first two exercises are, we're going to take the kettlebell, bring it up, and we're going to do a reverse lunge. So for that, we take a big step back, and then we swap feet. We're thinking about the weight being over the front foot, pushing hard over that front foot. And we do 20 of those. As soon as we've done the 20, we go into a one-legged Romanian deadlift. So you're going to stand on your right foot, you're going to hold the weight in the left hand, and you might have a few wobbles when you do this. And we're going to reach over and stand up. Reach over and stand up. So from the side, that looks like, well, this. So you're thinking about your back foot going up to the sky, and you'll feel a pull in the hamstring. So we do 10 on each side. You can do it with the weight in the same arm as the standing leg, which is slightly easier. But to make it a little bit harder, you take it to the opposite, which just brings in a bit of a balance challenge. So if you were doing this without weight, obviously we just take a step back, and then for the one leg RDL, you just reach over. And if you've not done that before, it may well be worth just starting with body weight. Okay, so now we're on the next two exercises, which are more upper body exercises. And I'm going to use a couple of resistance bands for this. And I find these resistance bands to be the best. You can get all sorts, ones with handles on, TheraBands, etc. But these kind of just standard bands are pretty good. You get different tensions. This is the easiest one. Purple tends to be the next one, then green. So have a look on the internet for them, or if you're struggling, give me a shout and I'll point you in the right direction. So again, for this first one, it's a press up essentially, so there's different variations depending again on where you're starting. You could start with just body weight, so body weight on the knees. The easiest version is with the knees kind of directly under the hips, and we're just going down. We make it a bit harder by taking the knees further back, harder again by obviously the knees off the ground, and then harder again by adding in the resistance band. So for this, basically you're getting the band and you're putting it around your back, and then we're going to place the hands on the ground, and from here we go down, push up, and that's obviously just adding some resistance there. Important to keep the hips up, so in a nice straight line. We don't want the hips down, or we don't want the bum up in the air like that. Nice and straight. Okay, so that's a pushing movement. Pretty obvious, I know, but worth pointing out. Right, okay, and then we go on to a pulling movement. So, again, depending on where you are, you might use less resistance, you might use more. And what we're going to do is loop the band around the feet. Okay, now, if I start with my palms facing each other in a neutral grip, what's really important here is I set my shoulders back, okay? So I don't want to be like this. I want to be nice and tall from the hips, retract the shoulder blades. So be a really good posture. My palms are facing each other, my head's forward, I've not got the head up or down, shoulders back, and then I'm drawing, squeezing those shoulders slowly out. Squeeze. To make it harder, I can take my hands closer to my feet. Squeeze, slow. And it's important we feel those muscles working. So we often talk about kind of mind-muscle connection. Squeeze. Because otherwise we can just kind of be going like that and not really doing anything. Okay, so we alternate those two exercises for our first two upper body. Okay, so those first two upper body exercises, what we call kind of compound or multi-joint movements, because we're not just working one muscle, we're working a couple at once. So with the press up, it's chest and tricep. With the banded row, it's bicep and all the little muscles in your back, the lats, all these little ones around the shoulders. Okay, so the next two we're going to do are upper body isolation exercises, meaning that you're working just one smaller muscle. So the first of which is a tricep extension. So again, you can use a dumbbell. I'm going to use a kettlebell, and what I'm going to do is basically take the weight, put it up over my head, so it's around the back there, and then from here I'm pushing up above the head. So from the front, it's important you get weight on both feet, push, and you can see I'm just flexing at the elbow, nice and controlled on the way down, and we don't need to lock the elbows out because we're trying to keep the tension in the tricep, just here in the muscle. If we lock it out, then the resistance or the tension goes more into the joint, so we want to keep the tension on the muscle, which means just keeping a little bit of softness in that joint. Okay, and then we go into a bicep exercise. The most important, some would say. Anyway, from here we're going to hold the weight, and we're going to do like partial reps, if you like. So from here we come up to halfway to there, back down, and we're going to do 7 of those. So this is a classic kind of bodybuilding exercise. Once we've done our 7 of those, we're going to pause here, then we're going to do the second half of that movement. Once we've done 7 of those, we're going to do the full lot together, so all the way down, all the way up, slow on the way down, so from the side, all the way up, all the way down. Once we've done our full set of 21, we go back to the triceps and continue from there. Okay. Right, okay, so now we're going to finish with some core, predominantly ab work, which, you know, everyone wants a six-pack, and whilst doing these exercises will help you along the way, as we all know, the most important thing is that you follow the nutrition plan, set your calories appropriately, and you're consistent with that, so that we kind of start to reduce our body fat. What this will do is just allow you to see the muscle a little bit more that you've developed. So what we're going to do is start with what's called a half get up. So again, you can use a dumbbell if it's easier. What I've got is the weight in my right hand, my right foot is bent, foot is on the ground, left leg is slightly out to the side, arm is out to the side. From here I kind of push with the elbow of my left arm and come up and finish with the weight overhead. I'll do 8 of those on the right hand side, and then swap, and I do 8 on the left. When I've done the full set, I go into what's called a hollow hold. So for this, take the feet off the ground, arms back, and we just hold this position for about 30 seconds. Once you've done that, you go back to the kettlebell. Okay, so there you have it. So ideally, you want to be doing that sort of 2, 3, ideally 4 times a week. And as I said in the ebook, the way you could sort of set that up is do 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, weekend off, something like that would be a really good way to set it up. As I said at the beginning, it's important that you can constantly add stress. So start off easy. If that means no weight, that's fine. Gradually add reps, then gradually add weight. It may mean you need to invest in some equipment. Kettlebells are great, bands are great. Obviously depends what sort of space you've got. If you've got a little garage or something, you can get a squat rack and more weights, then even better. But it is important that you progressively add resistance. It's also really important that you're consistent with your diet, arguably way more important than the exercise is getting your nutrition right, especially if you're wanting to look better. So stick to the plan. It doesn't, like anything in life, it is not magic. It's not going to work miracles. It does require commitment and some hard work, and you're going to have to follow it for at least within a week. I think you could start to notice a difference, but to really start to lose some fat, it's going to be a couple of weeks and months beyond that. Again, it depends on where you're starting from, but be consistent. And the other thing to bear in mind is your general activity levels. People talk about 10,000 steps a day. I think that's a really good place to start. So monitoring that to make sure that you are generally active, because it's all well and good doing formal exercise like this, which will obviously help, but if you're otherwise completely sedentary, then that is going to affect your progress. So monitor your steps, get out for a walk at lunchtime, go for a walk early in the morning, late at night, park your car further from the supermarket or the office or whatever it may well be, but have an eye on your steps. Okay, now, I hope that helps. Any questions? You know where I am. My email's somewhere on that ebook. It's jamiemlayton@gmail.com. Send us a message. More than happy to help. And yeah, good luck.